So, Bob, today I want to talk about the difference between complex post-traumatic stress disorder and borderline personality disorder. There's a lot of debate in the literature and among clinicians about whether or not they're even different things or if they are in fact different. Complex PTSD and borderline personality disorder. The reason why I want to talk with you about it, Bob, is for two reasons. One is that you specialize in the treatment of people with borderline, and I'm guessing you've come across a lot of people who also have complex PTSD. Is that true?
I think we're getting right into the debate. Are they one and the same?
Well, the issue is you've treated a lot of people with borderline.
Yes.
And the other reason is because patron Natasha wrote in and she said, "What is the difference between borderline personality disorder and complex PTSD? I have several clients who have experienced attachment-related trauma and also experienced traumatic events later in life. They tend to have issues with trust. They are fearful of being betrayed, and they tend to interpret others as being critical or rejecting. They have high levels of internalized self-directed anger. They are extremely self-critical. They have black and white thinking styles about themselves and other people. I am currently working with borderline personality disorder and complex PTSD clients in a similar way, but I'm trying to work out whether it would be helpful to distinguish these diagnoses since they seem to be pretty similar." So that's what I want to talk about today with you, Bob, because you're an expert in this field and the listeners will benefit from your expertise. Welcome to the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Who are you, Bob?
I'm Bob Gettle. I'm a therapist, a friend of yours from graduate school way back when, and I practice here in Seattle.
This episode is just for patrons of the podcast. So if you're listening to this and you're not a patron of the podcast, this episode will end before the content begins. So in this episode, we're going to go down a fairly deep dive on complex PTSD and borderline. We'll call it a moderate to shallow dive. It's not going to be too long, but we're going to go into it. If you want to hear this full episode, you have to become a patron of the podcast by going to patreon.com. That's patreon.com. Become a patron of the podcast, and you'll get access to hundreds of patron-exclusive episodes in which we do deep dives into various topics. And remember that a portion of your monthly pledge goes towards various charities that we support.